My name is Daniel Porter, a 34-year-old former pediatric speech therapist who became a janitor after losing my wife to cancer. At dinner, my blind date looked at me and asked, "Do you have any idea who I am?" I was confused until I saw my coworkers filming and realized I was the janitor being pranked with the CEO. The question hit the white tablecloth between us like a slammed door. I looked up from my menu, genuinely confused. The woman across from me was stunning, in an expensive navy dress, dark hair pulled back severely, but her eyes were chips of ice. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I don't think so. Should I?" A flicker of disbelief crossed her face. She glanced past me toward a corner booth where men in sharp suits were barely hiding their laughter. My stomach dropped. I recognized them, the finance guys from the 38th floor who walked past my cleaning cart like I was invisible. Gregory Pike, the smuggest of them all, had his phone up, recording light blinking red. In that gut-wrenching moment, I understood. This wasn't a date. It was an execution. "I am Miranda Ellison," she said, each word precise and cold. "I am the CEO of Ellison Financial, the company where you, Daniel Porter, are employed as a janitor. 8 hours earlier, it had started with a lie. I was wiping down the lobby's glass doors when Gregory and his friends approached me. Unusual, since they never acknowledged my existence. "Porter," Gregory said with a predatory smile. "Big night for you, my man." "A few of us were talking," another chimed in. "We think you're a good guy. Work hard, keep to yourself. You deserve a break." Gregory leaned against the reception desk. "There's a woman in accounting, sharp, pretty, but shy. She's seen you around and she's interested. We thought we'd play matchmaker, a blind date, our treat." I'd said no 3 times, but they persisted, framing it as kindness I'd be rude to refuse. At 34, my life was my 7-year-old daughter Laya and the quiet rhythm of night shifts. Dating had been thrown out of the kitchen entirely after my wife Emma died, but the seed of an idea began to sprout. Maybe it wouldn't hurt. When I got home to our tiny apartment, Laya was coloring a unicorn picture. Her bright eyes, so much like her mother's, looked up at me. "Daddy, you look nervous." "Some people from work set me up to meet a new friend," I managed. Her face lit up. "A friend? Is she pretty?" "I don't know, sweetie. I haven't met her." "You should go," she insisted, jumping up and pulling out my one good shirt, the dark gray button-down I'd bought for Emma's funeral. "Wear this one. It makes your eyes look like the sky." Her innocence was the final push. For her, I wanted to be more than just a tired janitor. I wanted to believe in good things again. But what Gregory and his friends didn't know was that their harmless prank had targeted the wrong man entirely. They saw a janitor pushing a cart, invisible and powerless. They had no idea who I really was. Before Emma's cancer stole everything, I was Dr. Daniel Porter, one of the most respected pediatric speech therapists in Ohio. I held a doctorate in developmental psychology, specialized in trauma-induced selective mutism, and had built a practice that treated over 200 children annually. I'd published papers, spoken at conferences, and commanded consultation fees of $300 per hour. When Emma got sick, I liquidated everything to pay for experimental treatments. The practice, the house, my reputation, all sacrificed trying to save her. When she died anyway, I couldn't face another child who might need healing I couldn't provide. So I disappeared, took a job where nobody would ever ask me for my expertise again. But I still had my skills, knowledge, and instincts. And I'd just watched them create the perfect storm. Back at the restaurant, the pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. I felt blood drain from my face and pushed back my chair. "I should go." "No," Miranda's command was quiet but absolute, her fury palpable. "You will sit. You will order dinner, and you will not give those pathetic little boys the satisfaction." Just then, 2 small figures appeared. Maya, Miranda's daughter, who'd been sitting with a hostess, and Laya, dropped off by my sister, who thought the date would be ending soon. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Maya whispered, but no sound came out. She signed the words, a practiced gesture that broke my heart. Laya smiled broadly. "Hi, I'm Maya. Your mom is so pretty. My daddy is handsome, right?" I looked at Miranda and saw not a titan of industry, but a mother carrying pain I understood completely. Something in Maya's silence, her careful distance from the world, triggered every protective instinct I'd buried for 3 years. The waiter approached cautiously. Miranda ordered sparkling water and Shirley Temples for the girls, then turned to me with corporate coldness. "What would you like, Mr. Porter?" The formal address was deliberate, a reminder that I was an employee, she was the boss. This was not a date. "Just water is fine," I murmured, having no intention of ordering food I couldn't afford under these circumstances. As the drinks arrived, I watched Maya more carefully. The way she communicated through gestures, the careful distance she maintained, the intelligence trapped behind her silence. Every clinical indicator pointed to selective mutism brought on by trauma. I'd seen it hundreds of times. Laya tried engaging Maya. "My favorite color is glitter. What's yours?" Maya opened her mouth hopefully, then pressed her lips together and looked down. A single tear traced down her cheek. I couldn't stand it. The humiliation was one thing, but watching a child's silent suffering was another. My buried instincts stirred. I took a sugar packet from the table and tore off a corner, tapping crystals onto the dark wood in a small, sparkling star. Then, I dipped my finger in water and let a perfect droplet fall beside it. "Look, Maya," I said gently. A wishing star and a magic moon. Her gaze lifted, fixed on the tiny scene. I nudged the water droplet until it touched the sugar crystals, which instantly dissolved. The moon gave the star a hug, and now the wish is safe inside. Maya's eyes widened with pure wonder. A tiny smile touched her lips. She looked at the sugar bowl, then back at me with a clear, unspoken question. I pushed the bowl slightly toward her. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out, took a packet, and slid it across to me. It was an invitation. Miranda watched this exchange, her face pale. She'd spent a fortune on world-renowned specialists, child psychologists, behavioral therapists, neurologists with charts and theories. None had ever made Maya smile. This janitor had broken through in 60 seconds with a sugar packet and a drop of water. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. Miranda insisted we order food, her tone brooking no argument. The girls ate while Maya and I continued our silent game, creating dissolving galaxies on the tabletop. The laughter from Gregory's table died, replaced by confused whispers. Their perfect joke was somehow being ruined. As we stood to leave, Miranda caught my eyes in the marble foyer. The ice was gone, replaced by raw, desperate intensity. "The specialists have a name for it," she whispered. "Selective mutism brought on by trauma. No cure, just methods, none of which have worked." She stepped closer. "I've paid world-renowned doctors millions to do what you just did with a drop of water. You're going to tell me who you are right now." The praise, the intensity, it felt like judgment, a painful reminder of who I used to be and how I'd failed when it mattered most. "I'm the man who mops your lobby, that's all." Miranda's eyes narrowed. "I don't believe you. You are going to help my daughter." It wasn't a request, it was an order. The words ignited defiance, fueled by years of pain. I looked at this powerful woman who thought she could command the world and gave her something she never expected to hear. "No, I can't help her. I'm just a janitor, remember? That part of my life is over." I took Laya's hand and walked into the cold night, leaving the billionaire CEO standing stunned in the warm restaurant light. Miranda Ellison didn't get told no. The word simply didn't exist in her vocabulary. People capitulated, agreed, bent to her will. But sitting in her chauffeured car, city lights blurring past the tinted window, that single quiet word echoed in her mind. For a few miraculous moments watching the janitor with Maya, she'd felt something unfamiliar, hope. Now he'd snatched it away, leaving familiar despair. He'd opened a door for Maya just a crack, then slammed it shut. She wouldn't accept it. By the time she reached her silent penthouse, anger had cooled into sharp, focused resolve. Daniel Porter was a puzzle, and Miranda Ellison was very good at solving puzzles. What she didn't know was that I was already 3 steps ahead, my strategic mind fully awakened for the first time in years. That night, I made 5 crucial phone calls. First, Dr. Rebecca Walsh, my former colleague who now ran the Children's Trauma Center in Cincinnati. "Daniel, my God, where have you been? Your work on selective mutism was groundbreaking. The Morrison protocol you developed is still the gold standard." Second, Marcus Blake, the the employment lawyer who'd helped me navigate Emma's medical leave policies. Of course I remember you. What can I do? Third, Dr. James Hartwell, the child psychiatrist who'd referred dozens of cases to me. Daniel, the field needs you back. Your success rate with traumatic mutism was unprecedented. Fourth, Lisa Montenegro, the investigative journalist, who'd featured my work in a major story about innovative therapy approaches. I kept wondering what happened to you after that beautiful piece about children finding their voices. Fifth, my former practice administrator, who'd kept detailed records of my professional achievements. Dr. Porter, I saved everything. Your publications, case studies, the documentary footage, 23 published papers, 847 successful cases, 3 international awards. By dawn, I had a complete strategic picture. Miranda Ellison might be a CEO worth $200 million, but she was also a desperate mother who just encountered the one person uniquely qualified to help her daughter. And unlike her usual business negotiations, this wasn't about money or power. It was about a little girl's voice. The next evening at work, I felt hundreds of eyes on me as I pushed my cart through pristine hallways. Gregory Pike emerged from his office as I passed, smirking. Well, heard you had a big night, Porter, hobnobbing with the elite. How does it feel to be back in the gutter where you belong? I kept pushing my cart, jaw tight. Excuse me, Mr. Pike. I need to clean this floor. His smirk faltered. He'd expected shame, devastation. He didn't understand why Miranda hadn't fired me on the spot. An hour later, I was on the 48th floor wiping down the mahogany conference table when the door clicked shut. Miranda stood there in simple black trousers and a gray sweater, looking younger and infinitely more tired without her corporate armor. I pulled your personnel file, she said flatly. It's a ghost. Custodial work for 3 years. Before that, warehouse in Ohio. Before that, nothing. A carefully constructed history of a man who wants to be invisible. I went back to polishing. It's my history. I don't care about your history. I care about my daughter. She hasn't smiled in a year, Mr. Porter. A year. When I put her to bed tonight, she got a sugar packet and glass of water and played your game for an hour by herself. She was happy. I stopped working, but didn't look at her. I will pay you, she continued. Name a price. Whatever it is, I'll pay it. You can work with her an hour a day. You'll make more in a week than you make here in a year. This was her world, where everything, even hope, had a price tag. I finally faced her, and the look in my eyes made her step back. It was bottomless grief. You think this is about money? My voice cracked with suppressed pain. The last time I poured my soul into healing someone I loved, I held her hand while she died. I am not a healer. I am a janitor, and your money can't buy a miracle. I pushed past her and left the conference room, leaving Miranda alone with the scent of lemon polish and her utterly useless checkbook. But Miranda was nothing if not strategic. If Daniel Porter wouldn't respond to power or money, she'd find different leverage. She tasked her assistant with research. Find out everything the janitor did when he wasn't at work. The report was painfully simple. He worked, took his daughter to school, visited the library Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon, and spent Sunday afternoons at Northwood Park if weather was nice. There was a carousel his daughter loved. Sunday was bright and crisp. Miranda dressed herself and Maya in jeans and sweaters, clothes they hadn't worn in years. She felt like an imposter as her driver pulled up to the public park filled with everyday joy. I was sitting on a bench reading while Leia spun on the merry-go-round, her laughter peeling through the air. In sunlight, the harsh lines of exhaustion on my face were smoothed away, replaced by quiet, paternal focus. I looked like a man at peace. Miranda sat on a bench across the carousel, heart pounding. Maya stood clutching her hand, watching other children with heartbreaking longing. When the carousel stopped, Leia spotted them and ran over, pigtails flying. Maya, you came to the park, she grabbed Maya's free hand. Do you want to go on the swings? Daddy pushes me so high I can almost touch a cloud. Maya looked up at her mother with a silent plea. Miranda nodded, throat tight. Go on, sweetie, go play. I looked up, saw Miranda, and the peaceful expression vanished, replaced by guarded tension. I walked over stiffly, stopping a few feet away. What are you doing here, Miss Ellison? My daughter wanted to go to the park, she replied evenly. This is a big city. lots of parks. She met my eyes, abandoning pretense. I'm not here to offer money or give orders. I'm here because my daughter is trapped inside herself, and you have a key. I saw it. She saw it. She hasn't stopped looking for sugar packets since that night. My gaze softened watching the girls. Laya was chattering while Maya sat motionless, but there was a flicker of smile in Maya's eyes, profound loneliness that felt achingly familiar. I told you I can't, I said, voice low, almost pleading. Miranda stood, her composure finally cracking. Why? Because you're afraid? So am I. I'm terrified I'll never hear her voice again, that she'll grow up unable to say, I love you, or even her own name. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a raw whisper. I don't know what broke you, but my little girl doesn't deserve to pay the price for it. She looked at Maya, then back at me, eyes shining. Please, don't do it for me. Do it for her. I followed her gaze, seeing Laya so full of light and Maya trapped in shadows. My carefully built walls of grief began crumbling. For 3 years, I'd built a fortress around my heart, walls made of grief and failure. But a 5-year-old's silent plea was more powerful than any defense. The walls came down. I let out a long, shuddering breath I'd been holding since Emma died. Okay, I said quietly, but I have conditions. Miranda sagged with relief like a puppet whose strings had been cut. No contract, no money, nobody at the office can know. If I do this, it's not professional. I'm not who I used to be, and if I feel like I can't help her, I stop immediately. No questions asked. It was my escape clause, the emergency exit I needed. Miranda saw the raw fear and finally understood the depth of my wounds. This wasn't arrogance, it was survival. Agreed, she said with sincere softness. All your conditions. Thank you, Daniel. 2 nights later, I stood awkwardly in Miranda's marble penthouse entryway. The place was vast, minimalist, silent, more modern art museum than home. Maya sat on a plush white rug, surrounded by expensive educational toys she wasn't touching. We can work in here, Miranda said too brightly. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. I knelt on the rug a few feet from Maya, careful not to enter her space too quickly. The self-doubt was a physical roar in my ears. From the corner of my eye, I saw Miranda hovering, her anxiety radiating across the room. Could you give us the room, please? I asked gently. Her silence is a shield. She won't lower it if she feels tested. Miranda nodded meekly and retreated to her office. For 20 minutes, I did nothing but breathe, letting Maya know I demanded nothing from her. Then I took out 2 smooth river stones and a blue pencil, beginning to idly draw a simple smiling face. Maya's eyes flickered to it. I placed the stone between us, took out another, and handed her a red pencil without words. For a long time, she just watched. Then, painstakingly slowly, she picked up the pencil and began drawing on the back of her hand. A single wavering red line, a connection. It was the smallest breakthrough, a silent conversation in color and trust. Meanwhile, Gregory Pike was executing his own strategy. At a downtown bar with senior board member Wallace, he swirled his drink thoughtfully. I'm worried about Miranda. She seems distracted on edge. Did you hear about that blind date fiasco with the janitor? Shows shocking lack of judgment. I hope everything's all right at home. He let the poisonous insinuation hang in the air. Wallace, who valued stability above all, looked troubled. The seed was planted. When my hour was up, Miranda rushed out. How did it go? Fine, we're just getting to know each other. After I left, Miranda found a piece of paper that hadn't been there before. In shaky 5-year-old handwriting was a stick figure of a man holding hands with a little girl. Underneath, Maya had drawn one wavering red line. It wasn't a word, but it was hope. Miranda held it like the most valuable thing she'd ever owned. The sessions became ritual. Twice a week after my shift, I'd arrive still faintly smelling of industrial cleaner and sit on the white rug with Maya. No magic breakthroughs, but steady progress like a seedling pushing through frozen ground. Maya started using stones to tell stories. A sad-faced stone placed far from happy ones. Red lines connecting small stones to larger ones. I began understanding her language. She was lonely at school, missed their dog from before her father left, was afraid of the dark. While I worked with Maya, Miranda waited in the kitchen pretending to work, but mostly listening. The quality of silence had changed. Before, it had been heavy, suffocating absence. Now, it was active, communicative, filled with trust. Our conversation started tentatively. "She likes drawing houses," I commented one evening while packing my bag, "always with one window and one person looking out." Miranda leaned against the doorframe, tea warming her hands. That was her father's studio. She used to watch him paint for hours. Another night, I was late. "Sorry, anniversary of my wife's passing. Laya was having a tough day." "Tell me about her," Miranda asked with surprising directness. I looked down at a riverstone. Emma believed everyone had a song inside them, and you just had to be quiet enough to hear it. She would have known what to do for Maya instantly. In these quiet confessions, the distance between CEO and janitor shrank. She saw the vulnerable woman behind corporate armor. I saw the brilliant wounded man behind the custodial uniform. Two single parents building safe harbor in an ocean of grief. Gregory Pike wasn't enjoying feeling powerless. He saw Miranda's subtle shift, new lightness in her step, the way she'd sometimes dismiss her driver and walk toward the janitor's neighborhood. He didn't know what was happening, but it involved Porter and was a threat. His plan was simple and cruel. Senior partner Abernathy was notoriously fussy about his antique gold fountain pen, a family heirloom worth thousands. While I cleaned another floor, Gregory enlisted his subordinate Peterson to plant the pen in my locker, then made an anonymous call reporting suspicious activity. As I clocked out, 2 security guards approached. "Mr. Porter, we need you to come with us. We've had a report of theft from Mr. Abernathy's office." My heart began pounding against my ribs. This was wrong, a setup. They searched my locker, and Henderson, the head guard, pulled out the gleaming fountain pen. "Can you explain this, Mr. Porter?" I stared at the pen I'd never seen before, seeing the trap snap shut. "That's not mine. I don't know how that got there." "That's what they all say," Henderson sighed, reaching for plastic zip ties. "Mr. Abernathy's on his way down to press charges." Abernathy stormed in, pointing a trembling finger. "That's him! That's the thief! I want him arrested. The audacity, stealing a priceless family heirloom." "That won't be necessary, Philip." The voice came from the doorway, sharp and cold as steel. Miranda stood there in her work clothes, arms crossed, radiating absolute authority that silenced the room instantly. "Miranda, this is a security matter," Abernathy stammered. "This man is my employee, therefore this is my matter. You may go, Philip. Henderson and I will handle this." After he scurried out, Miranda looked at me with softened eyes. "Are you all right?" I could only nod, throat too tight to speak. "Walk me through everything," she told Henderson, who recounted the anonymous tip and discovery. When he finished, Miranda was silent for a long time. "It makes no sense. I offered this man money that would change his life, and he refused it. Tell me, Henderson, why would a man who turns down a fortune steal a pen?" "Review the tapes. I want all security footage from the 40th floor and custodial area for the last 3 hours. Now." For the next hour, we sat in the monitoring station watching sped-up footage. They saw me doing rounds methodically. They saw Abernathy leaving. Nothing unusual. "There's nothing here, Miss Ellison," Henderson said impatiently. "Keep looking. Look for who shouldn't be there." Then she saw it. Movement near the custodial closet when I was on a different floor entirely. Stop. Rewind. Zoom in. The footage replayed in slow motion. A figure emerged from shadows. Not Gregory, but Peterson, his associate. He glanced nervously before slipping into the unlocked closet for less than 10 seconds. "What time?" Miranda asked. Henderson answered. "Show me the anonymous tip log." A line of text appeared. "Anonymous call regarding suspicious activity. Received at..." 4 minutes after Peterson left the closet. Miranda stood, voice dangerously quiet. "Henderson, release Mr. Porter immediately with a full apology. This investigation is concluded." She walked me to the elevator, silence charged with unspoken emotion. As doors slid shut, I finally found my voice. "Thank you. They were going to call police." "I knew you didn't do it," she said, turning to face me. "How? The evidence?" "Because I know who you are, Daniel. You're the man who plays games with sugar packets to make little girls smile. You talk about your late wife like she's still the sun in your sky. You are not a man who steals." The raw, unconditional faith in her voice hit harder than any accusation could. She wasn't my boss in that moment. She was the one person who truly saw me behind the uniform and grief. The elevator chimed at the lobby. I didn't move, just looked at her, heart overwhelmed with gratitude, relief, and something warm and terrifyingly new. "Miranda," I started, voice thick. "Go home, Daniel. Go home to your daughter," she said, her own eyes shining. I nodded, stepping out. I turned back one last time, and our eyes met and held. A silent, powerful current passing between us. The failed frame-up changed everything. Gregory was left twisting in the wind. Peterson fired for gross misconduct. Miranda didn't fire Gregory, in some ways crueler punishment. She let him remain stripped of projects and responsibilities. A ghost in a glass cage for all to see, his rage growing more toxic daily. For Daniel and Miranda, the crisis had burned away all pretense, forging trust so strong it was almost tangible. Their friendship, grown in quiet therapy sessions, now blossomed openly. Miranda insisted we join her and Maya for dinner one Saturday. Not at a restaurant, but her sterile apartment she was clumsily trying to make feel like home. We ate pizza on the living room floor, shocking breach of penthouse etiquette. The girls built cushion forts from expensive throw blankets. I saw Miranda truly laugh for the first time when Laya put an olive on her nose and declared herself a unicorn. Later, after the girls fell asleep in the fort, we sat on the balcony with the city glittering below like fallen constellations. "I never do this," she said, gesturing at the domestic chaos. "Sit, relax. My life is scheduled events." "Mine too. Work, sleep, make sure Laya eats vegetables. Tight loop." "Is it enough?" she asked softly. I thought long, watching distant headlight rivers. "When she's happy, that's all that matters." I looked at her. "You understand that?" "More than anything," she whispered. In these moments, the space between us shimmered with new possibility. I was no longer the janitor. She was no longer the CEO. Just a man and woman who'd found unlikely anchor in each other's storm. But the storm wasn't over. Just gathering strength for final assault. The email went out Tuesday morning. Mandatory company-wide town hall Friday afternoon. Official topic was third quarter results and new strategic initiative. Unofficial topic whispered everywhere was their CEO's sanity. Gregory's insinuations had done their work. Rumors swirled about Miranda's erratic behavior and inappropriate relationship with a janitor. The town hall felt like a tipping point. I was assigned to work the event, checking badges and directing people into the massive auditorium. I saw the looks, pitying glances, contemptuous sneers. I'd become a character in corporate gossip. I positioned myself at the back as the room filled. Board members took front row seats, faces grim. Then Miranda walked onto the stage, powerful and composed in dark charcoal, but I could see tension in her shoulders. Our eyes met briefly across the sea of heads. Silent acknowledgement. The meeting began with CFO droning about revenue and VP marketing showing slick videos. Air was thick with tense, expectant boredom. Everyone was waiting. Finally, questions opened. A few predictable softballs. Then I saw Gregory striding confidently to the center aisle microphone, looking directly at Miranda with false sincerity. "Miranda, thank you for your leadership. My question is one of concern shared by many dedicated to this company." He paused for drama. "We've seen inconsistencies lately, lack of focus. We've heard rumors of certain distractions, relationships showing disturbing lack of judgment." Shocked murmur rippled through the crowd. Open rebellion. Gregory's eyes flickered to find me in back shadows, lips curling into barely concealed sneer. Then back to Miranda with dripping condescension. "So my question is this. How can we have confidence in our company's future when our CEO demonstrates such poor judgment, mingling with service staff?" Physical blow. Murmuring stopped. Dead, shocking silence fell over the auditorium. Hundreds of eyes swung from Gregory to Miranda, alone at the podium in the harsh stage light glare. Board members stared ahead, refusing to look at her. I felt blood drain from my face, fists clenched, helpless. Miranda stood motionless for a long, deafening moment, face pale and unreadable. Silence stretched unbearably. She looked at Gregory, swept her gaze over the silent crowd, finally landing on me at the back. She took slow, deliberate breath, fingers gripping podium sides. A slow smile touched her lips. Strange, sad, incredibly powerful. Not cornered executive smile, but a woman just handed the perfect weapon. She leaned into the microphone. "Thank you, Gregory. Thank you for your concern. Judgment is what I'm paid for. So, let me tell you all a story about judgment." She paused, gaze sweeping audience, board members, finally Gregory, who was starting to look uneasy. "For the last year, many noticed I've been distracted. You were right, because for 365 days, my 5-year-old daughter Maya has not spoken a single word." Gasp rippled through the room. Story so intensely personal, so out of place in sterile corporate environment, utterly riveting. "Her father left," Miranda continued, voice clear despite tremor I could see in her hands. "In our family's wreckage, my daughter's voice was casualty. I judged the situation, threw money at it, hired the world's best specialists with PhDs and theories. They judged my daughter a clinical case of selective mutism. They poked, prodded, tested. All they did was deepen the silence." She looked directly at Gregory. "Then, a few weeks ago, some employees, in spectacular error of judgment, decided it would be funny to set me up on blind date with the company janitor." Second gasp, louder, sharper. Gregory's face went white. "It was cruel, humiliating joke," Miranda said, voice ringing with cold truth. "The target had every right to walk away. But he didn't. He stayed, watched my daughter who was with me, and saw not clinical case, but lonely little girl. She turned toward the back, finding me in shadows. He didn't have PhD or theory. He had a sugar packet. With that sugar packet, he made my daughter smile for the first time in a year. Room completely still. No one coughed or moved. I learned this janitor, judged invisible by so many, was once one of the country's most respected pediatric speech therapists, a man who healed children with his gift. But he judged himself more harshly than anyone. After losing his wife to cancer, he believed his gift was gone, so he hid where no one would ask for help again. He judged himself broken. Tears streamed down faces throughout the audience. Board members stared at hands, ashamed. Miranda's voice softened, but filled with powerful raw emotion. "For weeks, this janitor has been meeting with my daughter in secret. No money, no recognition. He asked nothing. Patiently, kindly showing her a way out of silence. Teaching me you cannot judge a person's worth by their business card title." She took deep, shaky breath, eyes shining. No longer CEO addressing company. A mother sharing miracle. "So to answer your question about my judgment, Gregory, this morning, because of that man's kindness, my daughter spoke her first word in a year. She looked at me and said, 'Mommy.' Collective sob went through the auditorium. Silence broken, replaced by overwhelming emotion wave. One person began clapping, then another. Within seconds, entire room was on feet, applause thundering, roar of support, empathy, release. Not for the CEO, for the mother. Gregory Pike stood frozen in the aisle, face masked with horror. His public execution had become his own. 2 security guards quietly appeared and escorted him out without a word. Through my own tears, I watched Miranda stand at the podium, letting applause wash over her. When it finally subsided, she made one last announcement. Effective immediately, Ellison Financial is creating a new charitable foundation, Maya's Voice Foundation, dedicated to providing free therapeutic services for children who've experienced trauma. Her eyes found mine again, clear, unwavering promise. And I've already found the perfect person to run it. Later, after chaos died down, she found me in the empty lobby, setting sun casting long shadows across marble floor. "So," she said, small, tired smile on her face, "Director of the foundation, job is yours if you want it." "Miranda, after everything you said—" "You don't have to say anything," she interrupted gently, stepping closer, closing final space between us. "You healed my daughter, Daniel, but I think maybe you healed yourself a little too." "You healed me," I whispered, realizing it was true. Her faith had been the one thing I couldn't give myself. She reached up, gently touched my face, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized was there. "The joke's on them, isn't it? They tried to set up the janitor with the CEO." "And what happened?" I asked, heart pounding. Her smile was luminous. The janitor saved the CEO and her daughter. I leaned in and she met me halfway. Our first kiss was soft, hesitant, question and answer all in one. Not end of corporate drama, but beginning of love story, built not on cruel joke, but on foundation of kindness, trust, and unwavering faith. 1 year later, Maya's Voice Foundation reception area was painted in warm yellows and soft blues, with comfortable beanbag chairs and walls covered in children's vibrant, joyful drawings. Not corporate art, but life itself. In a sunlight-filled room, I worked with a little boy who hadn't spoken since witnessing a traumatic accident. I didn't speak either, just rolled soft blue clay in my hands, molding shapes. For 10 minutes, only soft squish of clay. Finally, the boy pointed, first gesture he'd made all session. I smiled, broke off a piece, held it out. His small hand darted out and took it. It was a start. I left the foundation at 5 p.m. sharp. The old Daniel would have worked until collapse, but the new Daniel had more important meetings. I drove to our comfortable house in quiet, tree-lined suburb with yard and swing set, walking into sound of giggles. I found Miranda on the floor, hair down, sleeves rolled up, building elaborate Lego castle with Laya and Maya. "The dragon is attacking," Maya shrieked with laughter, flying red creation through air. "Princess Laya, you have to save us." "Never fear," Laya announced dramatically. "My magical knight will protect the castle." She grabbed lopsided Lego figure. Miranda looked up at me, face glowing with relaxed, easy happiness I now saw daily. Still brilliant, powerful CEO, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but here she was, just mom. She'd learned to build firewalls not just for company data, but family time. She'd discovered her most valuable asset wasn't stock portfolio, but Saturday morning with no scheduled events. "Your magical night has arrived," I said, leaning down to kiss her. "Daddy!" Laya and Maya shouted in unison, abandoning castle to wrap around my legs. I scooped them up, one in each arm, marveling at simple, perfect weight of my life. I had home, purpose, family. The ghosts were finally quiet. Few weeks later, warm autumn afternoon, we married. No big ballroom, no press, no 100-name guest list. Our wedding took place in backyard under sprawling oak branches. Only guests were our daughters. Laya as maid of honor with wild flowers she'd picked herself. Maya as ring bearer clutching small satin pillow with 2 simple bands. She hadn't stopped talking for the past year. Voice constant bubbling stream of joy that was our daily soundtrack. I stood opposite Miranda, holding her hands. She wore simple, elegant cream dress, hair adorned with single white rose. "I once told you I wasn't a healer," I began, voice thick with emotion. "I was wrong. You healed me, Miranda. You saw me when I was invisible, reminded me who I was meant to be. I love you." Miranda's eyes shone with tears. "I once thought strength was about being untouchable, never needing anyone. You taught me true strength is being vulnerable enough to let someone in. You and your daughter walked into my life on the cruelest of nights and turned it into the most beautiful gift. I love you, Daniel." When we kissed, girls cheered, throwing wildflower petals into air. Later that evening, 4 of us sat on blanket in yard, watching first stars appear. Laya and Maya nestled between us, sleepy and content. "You know," Miranda murmured, leaning her head on my shoulder, "it's funny, Gregory Pike tried to orchestrate the most humiliating night of our lives." I smiled, looking up at vast, peaceful sky. I thought of cold restaurant, mocking laughter, crushing weight of shame. It all felt like story that happened to someone else in another lifetime. "And what happened?" I asked, the words a familiar, happy refrain. She laced fingers through mine, hand warm and steady. "He introduced me to my husband. The cruelest joke had become the greatest gift. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and finding love in the most unexpected places." Gregory Pike had been fired within a week, his reputation in ruins, struggling to find work anywhere in the industry after his public humiliation. Meanwhile, we'd built something beautiful from the ashes of his malice. Maya's Voice Foundation now helps over 500 children annually, with a waiting list 6 months long. My methodology has been adopted by 12 other states, and I've published 4 new papers on trauma-based selective mutism. Miranda expanded her company's charitable giving by 300%. creating the most successful corporate foundation in the city's history. But the real victory isn't professional, it's personal. Every morning, I wake up to Maya and Laya's laughter, to Miranda's sleepy smile, to a life I never thought possible again. The janitor and the CEO found something neither money nor power could buy. A family built on love, second chances, and the magic that happens when two broken people help each other heal.